Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About House. I'm Todd.
I'm Oana.
Okay, we are going to talk about this this thing that happened in San Francisco, and here's the article: San Francisco to ban software that enables price collusion by landlords. Says the software helps landlords indirectly coordinate by sharing non-public information. Okay, we're gonna talk about the economic feasibility, the benefit for the consumer, the benefit for the companies that, not the software companies, but the companies that use the software, the landlords basically. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to talk about some of the problems that would arise if they were not optimizing their revenue and some other things. And we'll talk about some real world examples that if you have a rental that maybe you haven't thought about, and something that we'll go over some things. We talk about this all the time with our landlords. Okay. This stuff. Okay? All right. So I'll start with the first paragraph, and then we'll just go through and talk about it. Okay. San Francisco's Board of Supervisors this week approved a ban on software that's allegedly used by landlords to collude on rent prices. Board of Supervisors President Aaron Pesky recently proposed what his office called the first local ordinance in the country banning the sale or use of software which enables price collusion among large corporate landlords for the purpose of rent gouging. Oana, what is collusion? Okay, first of all, collusion is illegal, right?
Collusion is illegal.
Okay, but let's talk about that. So we'll start with, we use an easy example, airlines. United is flying between San Francisco and Austin, Texas, and they set a fare of $300 for a basic coach ticket, let's say, right?
Okay.
Southwest decides, hey, we're going to start flying to Austin from San Francisco. And they go, oh, United charge, we'll just charge the same at United, right? Whatever. If that's what they'll charge, we'll charge. And then let's say Delta is doing the same route, but they go the opposite way. So they go back and forth, Austin, San Francisco, back. And they go, we'll do the same thing. We'll just charge $300. So they'll charge the same rate. Mm-hmm. Now, they're not really using software to do this.
No.
Why would they do that? Like, why wouldn't Southwest go, oh, let's charge $290 and we'll undercut United and we'll make it cheaper for the consumer?
Okay, because that would be a race to the bottom and everybody would lose money. And they're not in the business of losing money. They're in the business of being profitable and providing a service. You know, the thing that kind of bothers me a little bit more about these, well, a lot of things bother me with this, but one of the things that bothers me is that they're picking on certain software platforms.
Yep.
And so if you are a landlord who uses that software platform, then you've paid a lot of money for that software platform. And now the city has outlawed it, and then the software platform is going to say, well, here's the thing. They outlawed this particular module of our platform, but they didn't really outlaw our whole platform, so you're still on the hook for paying us. Well, I chose your platform because you provided all these analytics. I could have chosen a more economical platform that would have provided me the rest of what I need. So that kind of nips at the landlords a little bit. Another portion of that is that in doing this, this governmental body is manipulating the market, is saying, hey, the market's efficient, we can't have that.
Okay.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
We'll read the next quote here. RealPage and Yardi, which are the two companies that do this, collect and combine proprietary large landlord data. So large landlords, like they own apartment complexes and stuff, and make pricing and occupancy recommendations. Peskin's office said these recommendations effectively become the lay of the land, with multiple investigations finding the amount to illegal price fixing. Okay. RealPage's own executives have told investors that software has driven double-digit increase in rents, increased turnover of units, and increased vacancy rates. You don't want to have a high vacancy rate if you're a landlord.
No, you don't.
What is it you're trying to do? What's ultimately the thing you're trying to do as a landlord?
Well, you're trying to maximize occupancy and maximize revenue. So what you want is you want to price your product efficiently so that everybody who is interested in your product, in this case, a place to live, is able, who wants to, will pay market rate, and you will not have that unit vacant for a long time. Here's the problem. If landlords now don't have the data, then they're going to be inefficient on how they price these units. And when they're inefficient, what's going to happen is these units will actually stay vacant longer. So if you're trying to put people in these units, well, you've just created the opposite problem, because these landlords are now going to err on the high side, right? Because they don't want to leave money on the table. They're going to, let's say, price an apartment maybe 10% over market value, because they're no longer getting these analytics. Now that apartment will stay vacant longer because they're testing the market with this price. Then they're going to have to do price reductions, and then eventually they'll get to that market price and it will rent. Well, that means that that unit maybe was vacant for 2, 3, 4 months. And those are 2, 3, 4 months that somebody could have been in a unit. And so where are these people that are moving into this unit? Well, they're in another unit that somebody else could also rent once these people moved. So you're kind of in this situation where you're creating greater vacancy, which means you're housing less people. And there are no winners in this. The landlords lose because they're not as profitable. The tenants lose because it takes longer to rent a unit because they need to wait until that unit comes down to market value. Or if they don't wait for that unit to come down to market value, then they're overpaying. So this is not helping anybody.
Here's another quote from the article. March 2024 White House statement criticized the use of algorithms to set rent prices. In a recent filing, the DOJ made clear its position that inflated rents caused by algorithmic use of sensitive non-public pricing and supply information violate antitrust laws. The White House statement said earlier this month the Federal Trade Commission DOJ filed a joint brief, further arguing that it's illegal for landlords and property managers to collude on pricing and to inflate rents, including when using algorithms to do so. Oana, in residential real estate, we make everything public. Wouldn't it just be the smart thing to do is for all these guys to go, okay, fine then. We'll just publish publicly how much we offered and how much everybody's paying. We won't identify their name, but we'll say, hey, we offered this unit for $2,800. They're renting it for $2,750, and it's a 1-year lease and like a comp. Now, I could see them arguing that the Board of Supervisors saying, oh, well, now you're colluding publicly. Well, how's that any different than an airline, which, by the way, uses software to maximize revenue?
Sure.
How does that any different from an airline using the software, or from the landlord just going on the MLS and going, oh, well, that house rented for this, so we'll just rent ours for the same because that must. They're trying to do. They're not colluding. They're trying to find the market equilibrium rent.
Right.
They're just trying to find the rent. It's just like selling a home. You look at comps to see what other people have sold for to determine what your price is going to be. So let's go through this example on it.
Okay.
You have a rental house. Let's say you decide to price it at $2,000 a month. And it takes you 45 days and somebody goes, fine, I'll pay $2,000. And you're like, oh, great. So 45 days pass. And then so you rent it for a year, but you've lost 45 days. Okay. Now you have some magical software that says, hey, if you price it for $1,900, you'll actually get somebody in like on day one. So you go to the software. Okay, it says price for $1,900. You price for $1,900. The next day somebody shows up, they move right in. They pay you the money, they move in. You have 0 days lost. So instead of getting 10.5 months at $2,000, you get 12 months at $1,900, which is more.
Well, I do better at $1,900 because now I'm getting $1,200.
Right. You're netting more money at a lower thing because you have less vacancy. Here's the magical thing. With real estate, because all landlords' costs are fixed, you don't have a marginal cost for having a tenant. Vacant or whatever, the cost is the same because you have the carrying cost of all the money and other carrying fees, loans and things like that, right? So you want to maximize revenue, which is T sub R, total revenue. You want to maximize total revenue. And this can be done much easier with a computer or you're guessing. So in the one example we gave, you have two houses. One's rented for $1,900 and one's because they use software. And the other ones actually rented for more because they didn't use software, but they just finally, somebody just broke down and said, fine, I'll pay $2,000.
Well, generally what happens is they're going to end up at 1,945 days. So you're better off renting at 1,900 on day one than at 1,945 days if all the market will truly bear is 1,900.
Here's another quote. The consolidated class action complaint alleged that vacancy rates rose because property owners could and did allow a larger share of the units to remain vacant, thereby artificially restricting supply while maintaining higher rental prices across their property. This behavior is the only rational if defendants know that their competitors are setting rental prices using RealPage's RMS and would not attempt to undercut them. Oana, this is like what OPEC, I guess you could argue, does. It's a cartel. Mm-hmm. They meet and they have meetings where they agree on output, how much output they're going to have.
Sure.
You could argue that airlines do this. They say, hey, we're only going to have 85% of the seats filled, so let's not dump our prices. Let's all keep our prices high, and we'll all just have 15% of the seats open. But if we try to beat each other up to capture that, we're still going to have 15% of the seat open. We're just going to have a lower thing, right? But there's actually not a problem with saying, look, I can't make money if I don't charge X, so it doesn't benefit me. Because here's the thing. Let's just pick a market. I don't know how many vacant units are in San Francisco, but let's say there's 200,000 total in the whole market. Mm-hmm. But you only have 180,000 people. You're going to have 20,000 vacant units, right? If you know for sure you're going to have 20,000 vacant units, you're not they have to live somewhere. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to necessarily just cut your price, because cutting your price, you could cut it to $1. You're still going to have 20,000 empty units, right? Because you don't have enough people to fill all the units. Right.
Well, the other thing, I don't know how much these stats kept in mind, is that there are units that are vacant. Yes, that's true. But, what stage are they in their life cycle? Meaning, are they being renovated? What's going on? So just because you have all these vacant units doesn't mean that they're truly available for rent.
Right. Yeah. Here's the next quote. While we share the San Francisco Board of Supervisors' goal of helping renters, this ordinance will do nothing to make housing more affordable in the city, where there's a severe supply shortage of rental units that needs to be addressed, a RealPage spokesman told the TV station after the vote. So, ultimately, it seems like they're trying to put their finger on the scale when they've artificially kept, because San Francisco has very strict height limits.
Well, San Francisco has all kinds of rules and restrictions and taxation and all sorts of things going on. From my standpoint, San Francisco is a beautiful city, and the San Francisco government would do better to clean up the streets and make it a desirable place to live, rather than concerning themselves with whether or not software is being used to make the market more efficient.
Right, but they're alleging that they're using it as a collusion tool.
So I can sort of see their collusion tool from the perspective that these statistics are not publicly available. Okay, maybe I could see that. So, but they're not saying, hey, make it publicly available. They're just saying you can't use it, which is different, because they're not looking for transparency. They're looking to force a change, not transparency, and that's really what bothers me.
Well, I think they're trying to put their finger on the scale to the benefit of the people.
The benefit of no one. It hurts everyone.
Yeah, I think economically, forget politics. I think economically, San Francisco has, I think, the second highest home prices or rental prices outside of New York City.
I think you're right.
New York City was number one, or San Francisco was number one, and then New York became number one after the pandemic. So now we're back to it, but still, and they're not building new things. And you have, a lot of people left, but they're coming back. And the reason you had vacancies was because people left.
Right.
And you have landlords who are used to charging a certain amount, and we're just not going to charge less because we still can fill the units. No, if you know that airplane's going to be 85% full and you charge $1, you didn't get fill the other 15% of the seats. You just charge everybody who was gonna fly.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a point at which they just say, I'll pay because I want to get to where I'm going.
Right.
And people will just pay because, I like this area of town. I really want to live here. And, just because you can't force the landlord to offer a specific amount that they would lose money at.
They're trying to do that, but the problem is that the landlords still have those fixed costs. And
Right.
A lot of those are fixed costs because of their location and because of the different policies in that location. So that's really what the battle is. The battle isn't necessarily that there's collusion as much as there are certain expenses that everybody's trying to cover and everybody's trying to have a certain margin. I think that if the intention was transparency, they missed the mark.
Yeah, I love the city of San Francisco. We've spent a lot of time there with doing startups and things like that. Obviously, the school board took AP classes out of all the high schools because it was unfair.
So that's a whole different ball.
Right. But this is a little bit crazy that they have come to this point. But economically, it doesn't make sense because all they have to do is say, fine, we're going to have full transparency. We'll just publish it publicly. And our competitor can see what we're charging.
Well, not only that, but then everybody can see that. And then that gives everybody that advantage. So not just the people using those two particular platforms, but everybody.
Yeah. Anyway, so the bottom line here is we didn't mean to get super crazy about what they did, but at some point you have to just let the marketplace work. And these companies are using the software, of course, to make them more money and be more efficient. But if they're less efficient, they're not going to just take it in the shorts. They're just going to guess high, and they're probably going to have even more vacancy and higher.
Well, so if they're less efficient, then their product will be more expensive.
Right.
I mean, that's just economics, right?
It's funny. There's an actual stat. Happen to know quite a bit about airline economics, but airlines used to fly around in the 90s at about a 70% rate. Mm-hmm. So 30% of the seats were open. So, but remember, in the late 90s, airlines weren't making quite a bit of money doing this. And the airplanes are more full, but ticket prices adjusted for inflation are less than they were in the 90s. So the software has made them more efficient. Now there's more people traveling, but there's also more airplanes flying around. There's a lot of other things that have happened. So everything hasn't been held constant, right? But, it's the more that airlines use the software, the more efficient the marketplace is for everybody, not just the airline, but for the traveling people too. So
right, and then you see all kinds of specials where you can fly on some kind of offbeat airline for $27.
Banana Airlines.
Yeah, from here to there, and it's kind of fun. You want to bring shoes, that's extra. You want to bring luggage, that's extra.
Yeah.
You want toilet paper, that's extra. But it's all good.
Yeah. So anyway. I'll let you have the final word on this
All right.
This obviously for us, we're free market. We're like the free market should dominate. Market forces should dominate. And sometimes because we did the video about rent control, we talked about all the negative things that happen under rent control, how it really makes it harder for the tenant.
Okay, so we're going to wrap up this video with something not related to real estate.
Ooh.
Okay, so tell me in the comments who sang "I Left My Heart in San Francisco" for the first time in the ballroom at the Fairmont Hotel.
Oh.
Okay.
You've been in there, that Fairmont Hotel.
I have. So tell me who did that. So I hope that's kind of a little bit of fun.
It was a long time ago?
It was a very long time ago.
Okay.
And if you know the history of the Fairmont Hotel and what makes it special, drop that down in the comments. I'll give you a hint. It was the first hotel that was designed with a steel, what's it called? The steel.
Post-tension slab.
Well, thank you. With post-tension slab, and it was designed by a female architect.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Yes.
Oana actually knows a lot about San Francisco. She has numerous blog posts about all these walking tours you've done. There's dozens of walking tours, and you've done all of them. So you know everything about San Francisco.
I do know a lot about San Francisco. I love San Francisco.
We spend a lot of time in San Francisco. So, yeah.
So anyway, a little bit of fun. Otherwise, leave us your real estate related comments down below. We appreciate them. Remember to like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share the video, and we will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye.